1960 Emerson AM transistor radio repair. This is the chassis only. This belongs to a younger collector. He got stuck on it, and so he passed it over to me to sort out. I know we usually like to see what the thing looks like, and this is sort of, these over here, these models are sort of what it looks like. One thing is, I am pretty adamant about having proper service information on anything that I can find it for. I can fix stuff without service information, schematics and that. But if it's at all available, I do my best to get it, just to make the video better and make it faster for me to sort out. So we have some notes here from him. Let's go over these. We'll start here. This is an Emerson 888, model 888. Well, I did a lot of searching on this, and Emerson is very confusing the way they do chassis and model numbers. They'll do a model within, like this. They'll have a model 888 with different names like Pioneer and Vanguard, and they'll go run through multiple years. Like this thing runs from about 1958 to 1961 or 2 with different names. But in doing a bunch of research, this set uses an audio output transformer. This set does not. It only uses one transformer here. It's just got 2 transistors here. If we look at the diagram, we can see on this one, it's got 2 transformers. So I looked through the schematics for all the 888s, and these were all the different SAMs. And none of these are the 888s, and these are the 888s. None of these matched. So then I started to look at other models, and the best I could come up with is this is a model 880, not 888. What really sealed this for me is I was looking through the Beatmans, and this says this set utilizes etched circuit board chassis is this chassis and this chassis, identified by part number 63225 and 63243 respectively. Well, this is a 63243, which matches 63243. And then I started to compare the components. And this diagram has all the component values laid out on it, and it's got the one transformer and then the 2 transistors. More confusion with this model number, chassis number thing on this set. According to Radio Museum, Beatman's is wrong. And they're saying that this is actually a 888 Vanguard. So if I plug that chassis number into SAM's, these are the sets that covers. So it's SAM's 502, and it's an 888 Atlas, 988, 988 Rambler, Explorer, and Vanguard. I don't know. I just know that the schematic I got matches the radio. Suspect is oscillator transistor. Most soldering is temporary. I don't know what that's about. I always tend to bag on his soldering, but it's nothing personal at all. Plays for a few seconds before signal dies. Okay, so that's the problem right there. The complaint. Plays for a few signals before dies. Tips on aligning these radios. Okay, so maybe we could go over some alignment tips. I know I usually just do it and go through it pretty fast. Thank you very much for the help. These are all P.S. This thing is a headache. Okay. These are all, this here and this here is all my notes on trying to find the correct model numbers. I don't know what this is about. What is this, a 2SA70? No, that is an RCA 2N586. Wonder what that's for. Wonder why he taped that on there. Okay, this looks like it's a... I don't know, I don't see a frequency on here. I'll have to go dig out the transistor book to figure this out. I don't know, it's not like an audio output. It might be an IF transistor. Well, he recapped it. And he changed a lot of resistors. So the internet should be immediately happy that this has been completely recapped. Even the film capacitors, we got a 0.22 there. According to this, all of the values and capacitor installation looks correct. I think we can move on past that and hook up the speaker and see what it does. I got the microphone pointed straight at the speaker here. Let's see what it does. I'm running on 3.3 volts per cell. I got 2 cells. This is a center tapped setup. This does not use an audio output transformer. It uses a center tapped battery setup. You have to use batteries with this setup. You can't just use 6 volts. You got to use positive and negative 3 volts. So that's set up. Let's see what it does. Well, it's just sort of motorboating. What's going on here? Wonder why he removed this IF transformer. These haven't even been soldered. The original soldering in this thing is gold. I mean, the solder joints themselves are gold. What is this? I redid all of these solder joints, and the new solder really doesn't like to melt in with that gold stuff. I don't know what that is. Anyway, it was motorboating, but then it wasn't motorboating. But there's something here I'm interested in. This. How does he have this antenna connected? That is not supposed to be connected like that. The antenna has more than just 2 connections, and he's got, let me see. He's got 3 wires soldered here, and 2 wires soldered here. That's not right. This shows the antenna. We got one of them connected there. We got the other one connected there. And the other one goes to C1A RF. Okay, so this is how it connects. The short one connects between base and that point, and then the longer one connects between that point and, which is essentially ground. The center is an RF ground, and then that one connects to C1A, which is the tuning capacitor. Okay, maybe this is right. I apologize. I did not see this connected here. Okay, let's see if it'll pick up the oscillator in this. So right there, what it does is it puts a peak. This thing automatically puts a peak on the strongest thing it's picking up, which happens to be 1070 KNX. So I don't see the oscillator running in this. Didn't he say he suspects oscillator transistor? Okay. Well, it certainly looks like the oscillator is not running. This uses its own separate oscillator. That's the mixer. So all we need to do is figure out why this is not running to start. I have a feeling there's a lot more problems with this. He usually gives me challenging stuff. I'll give him credit there. Let's do some DC voltage measurements here on the oscillator. So the collector looks like it should be minus 4.3, and then I can't read that. Anyway, the transistor's right here, and he soldered quite a bit on that thing. Okay, well, I'm getting 4.8, 4.8, and 4.8. What's going on there? Well, that transistor is underneath the tuning capacitor. Okay, I see. It comes apart. 1950s engineering, designed to be fixed. Well, that oscillator transistor tests like 2 diodes. I mean, a transistor is basically supposed to test like 2 diodes, but not on this thing. That's bad. Should have some gain. Now, the problem is the one he gave me is too big. It's not going to fit under that. This thing's very difficult to work on. These wires are breaking off the antenna. This is no bueno here. I'm going to try and put an oscillator transistor on the back, and we'll see if we could get the oscillator to run. I don't need the antenna for that. Maybe I should see if we're passing 455 IF through this. Seems like the IF is working very nicely. Chinese 840-piece transistor assortment kit. This is about $9. Must be very good quality. So I don't know, which one should we use? Any modern silicon transistor should be able to work in this circuit, I would think. I was looking at the voltage divider for the bias, and it does not look like it's going to starve a silicon transistor for bias voltage. So let's try, how about one of these S-series transistors? I don't know what's PNP here. Just have to either look them all up or stick them one at a time in the thing and test them. This is an S855. Damn, look at the beta on that thing, 312. Okay, there it is. It's running now with the new silicon transistor, but it's a little slow. It's only going up to about 1.7, and I think it needs to go up higher than that. So we'll just hope we can adjust that. I got the antenna hooked back up. I got that silicone transistor on the bottom. And let's see what happens here.
Into the banking industry to begin reducing the funding of climate changing fossil fuels. Protesters in 12 cities, including LA.
Well, there it did the running for 10 seconds and then fading out thing.
Local credit unions and community banks.
What the? Turn it off for a minute. It's got a weird problem. I mean, obviously the oscillator was working for him.
Glendora and Pasadena. So just make sure
So yeah. So he's absolutely right. It goes deaf. Man, that is a weird problem. But the 455, I don't think faded away. I got the signal generator hooked up there on 455. I'm letting it sit for a minute. I want to see if the 455 alignment tone fades out with the station. So here we go. Try it again. That was inconclusive. So the IF frequency is fading out. So maybe it's a bad IF transistor. That has got to be a transistor causing that problem. I just hit the 2 IF transistors with the freeze spray. See, I dripped some on the speaker there. That one's frozen and no difference. Well, we still got 2 more problems. One of them is the motorboating. And it's motorboating with the volume turned down. So that's got to be in the audio amp section. This might just be a bunch of bad transistors. I'm trying to come up with a coherent way to diagnose this. Okay, I think I got a lead here. So we got two IF amplifiers, IF amp 1, IF amp 2. They both have 470 ohm emitter resistors. I'm checking the voltage on each emitter and monitoring it as the gain fades out. This is one of the IF transistors. The other one is over here. Its emitter resistor is there. I'm connected on right there to the 470 ohm resistor for this one. Watch the voltage and listen.
Buddy, what is the Hatch Green Chili, Robert Schuler from Melissa's Produce? Give us the background.
Yes, thank you. This is the infamous annual.
So you can see the voltage change on this transistor's emitter as the volume sensitivity fades out. Now we're going to check the other one. Now I'm connected to the other IF transistor's emitter resistor. Let's watch this one and listen to it.
So, when you go to a hash roasting, or if you get a raw one at your store, roast them. What you do is you eat your.
So you can see this one doesn't really change as the volume fades out. I'm sort of suspicious of that other IF transistor. I grabbed a different antenna because I was tired of destroying what was left of the original. So we'll just use that for testing. I'm going to try and substitute this transistor. It's got to be a transistor that's causing this problem. Maybe it's the detector diode. That might explain the motorboating, but I don't know. This is suspicious to me. So I'm going to try substituting that. I changed the transistor with a different transistor, but I don't think that's the problem because this is the one I changed, the first IF, and it is controlled by the AVC feedback. The number 2 transistor is not, so this one, the emitter voltage would automatically change as the gain dropped off, caused by anything in the circuit. So I'm thinking this might have been a result of, not the fault of. Same exact symptom. Yeah, I looked at the schematic afterwards and saw how that could happen. So, yeah, wrong part. So that makes me think it's neither one of the IF transistors. Okay, I changed the RF amp, and it fixed it. And that sort of makes sense why the voltage was changing. Because the signal would go away, so the AVC voltage would change.
Potential run production. It was non-existent. You didn't plant your crops. You can water it all day long.
We still have the motorboating issue, though.
COLR obligations, arguing that customers who use their landlines could switch over to AT&T Wireless for voice over Internet protection service for alternative service. I have news for you. Sometimes Internet is out. Sometimes electricity is out. Sometimes everything is out. And you have no way to know or connect to anybody. Because I would not rely to buy macaroni on my cell service, because you never know when it shuts out or when it drops the calls. Among those petitioning to keep the landlines alive was a Las Virgenes Malibu Council of Government representing Agora Hills, Calabasas, Hidden Hills, Malibu, and Westlake Village. The importance of landlines in an emergency situation was highlighted by January firestorms in Los Angeles County, when so-called public safety power shutouts led to some local residents losing cell service entirely. Without landlines, they would have been completely disconnected from outside world at the time when up-to-date information was urgently needed. But in modernizing the telecom system, baloney. They just cannot make enough money out of landlines because not many people buy them, and people, they cannot charge endless amount of money. Well, Aaron, I don't want to drown you in details, but the idea is that if you
So even if I short the volume control, it's still motorboating. It's still oscillating. Why?
and cell phone, they can attach to cell phone anything. Find it where you can drink.
Okay, I fixed the motorboating. That was my fault. That was because I had the little current limiting light bulb. So the motorboating was a problem caused by my current limiting setup. We're going to do the alignment now, or part of it, because I changed the oscillator transistor, and so the oscillator is all way off. It's really low. So the way I'm going to do this is, and everybody kind of has their own way, but I know my radio stations here. I want at the very top of the dial, I want KBLA, and at the very bottom of the dial, I want to be right below the sports station. So I'm going to go to the bottom of the dial, capacitor all the way closed, and then I'm going to adjust the oscillator to find the sports station.
Radio app. Dodger fans, skip the line at Dodger Stadium. Look around the ballpark for the QR code.
Okay, so that was a sports station at the bottom of the dial. Now I'm going to go up here. And now I want to adjust the trimmer to get KBLA.
Es un programa previamente grabado. Radio Inspiración presenta. 저 같은 경우에도 스트레칭만 조금만 01580. As always, my ride or die, the editor extraordinaire is in the studio with us. Neil's in the house. How you doing, man? Great, man. This quiet sports summer is heating up, man.
Okay, I think that's KBLA, so I should be right.
So I'm talking and ready to get moving. All right, here we go. Let's get into it. Here's what I got. Here's what we got for you tonight. There's been a lot of chatter in the streets lately about how long LeBron might be with the Lakers. Dodgers teams of experts working together to personalize a treatment plan. Right,
I want to check the bottom.
We're getting close to the NFL season. Which head coaches are facing the most pressure to get it done this season? We'll put those coaches on. 무려 키가 2점.
Comes to the left is that
Okay, there's 1260. So this is about right. This is tracking pretty good.
that means about 10,000 striking.
Thursday night in a parking lot. The important county news reporter Nicole Comstock.
They said they were at nearby 7th Street Park for their older son's football game, and Rebecca took...
Some people may not even see it, that they're pushing their husband or pushing their wife because they want to see a little more fruit. Let's get out there and just...
and hit her in the...
Not only is she taking her little one, but she's taking me.
Okay, so that's the oscillator alignment. Set the oscillator coil at the bottom of the band to be right below the sports station. set the capacitor at the top of the band to be right above KBLA. And I don't know what the 1560, I don't know what it is, but that's about right. That'll give you the coverage that these radios were designed to do. The IF and the antenna, we'll do that later. Okay, I put the IF transistor back in. So we just had two bad transistors. What's the whole problem with this? We had a bad oscillator and a bad mixer, or front end RF, whatever they're calling it. I was looking through my bag of transistors that I grabbed to substitute the ones that I thought were bad here, and I found this. This is one of the old school original germanium transistors, a Raytheon CK725. I think these are worth some money. Test it. Well, coming in with a beta of 0, it's a transistor, but it has 0 gain. Wow, look at the forward voltage, 29 millivolts. Damn. I was looking up some of these transistors, and the one that I used in the radio for the oscillator is actually a PNP 2-watt audio output. I think the 9015 would be the S9015 would be a much better solution, or any of these three, the BC 556, 557, or 558. So yeah, I don't know why I used the high power audio output. It seemed to work well. Maybe I should just leave it. Okay, let's get this buttoned up. I want to finalize the transistors and get it in and finish the alignment and get it buttoned back up so I can give it back to him and move on to the next project. I'm thinking for the mixer, the RF / mixer, I'm going to use maybe a BC 557. Those three, 556, 557, 558, are all kind of the same. It doesn't require super high frequency transistors for this thing. Any modern silicon transistor should be able to handle, 2 megahertz. These are like 3 to 500. Usually what I do before I decide if I can use a modern silicon just directly in place of the germanium because of the difference in biasing, I look at the biasing network, and you can see this one is pretty simple. It's just, there's no divider. There are no divider resistors for the bias. It's really just that 1.8 and this 56. And this is part of the AVC control loop right here. So what really regulates it is kind of this diode and these 3 resistors. I'm going to try a silicon and see how it performs. The one I popped in there is germanium. If the performance is similar as far as the sensitivity, I'm just going to roll with the silicon. I don't know if you can hear the classical station there, but I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to switch that transistor out for that one. Okay, I switched it, and it's on a different station now, so obviously that's affecting the speed of the oscillator a little bit. Let me try and get it back on the classical station. Okay, the classical station was just a touch off. Just a touch. So I think we're good to go with these 2 silicon transistors here without changing any bias or any resistors, just dropping them straight in. Here are the 2 new transistors installed. So modern. Goes with those nice new modern carbon film resistors. We talked about demonstrating how to do an alignment on this radio, and we sort of did that with the oscillator. Oscillator coil at the bottom of the band, and then using the capacitor to set the top of the band. The next thing, or one of the main things, is the IF. But this radio these cans are like permanently tuned. There's nothing to adjust inside of these. So this does not get an IF alignment. That's the most bizarre thing I think I've seen. I mean, it looks like it has a core, but it says peaked at 455. And we know it is peaked at 455 because of the responsiveness of it earlier in the video. So let's make sure we still...
Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccine.
Okay, I think it moved a little bit. Let's see, which way do I want to go with this? I want the sports station at the bottom.
The 50. The best mobile network in the U.S.
Okay, let me do it a different way. Stand by. Okay, 550. Okay, we'll set this to 550. Okay. And we'll set this to 1610. Okay, so it was about right.
Or said something about stacking Satoshis. Ladies and gentlemen, I would carry a coat or a sweatshirt in my car, so I can literally walk up to the ATM and make it do a transaction. Or if I had to go into the bank, I would.
Oh, wait. And he got my first place vote for the Heisman last year. I believe.
Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is put it on the classical station.
Food items in Beijing.
Now what I'm going to do is peak the antenna trimmer. Now we should be able to get a peak here. Not really. Seems like about right there, if anything, but no clear peak. Let me play with that.
Central, and then you got the Kansas City Royals right there, just a game and a half back.
We'll take this outside away from the fluorescent lights and put the mic on it and do a band sweep. But I can tell you right now, just from the performance here, it seems excellent. I don't know if it would have been better new. We'll have to see if it'll get the old school station out of Santa Barbara. If it gets that, it's a DXer. And these permanently tuned IF cans, these are a trip. I don't think I've ever seen these.
That the culture hasn't evolved, if you will, or isn't evolving.
So one kind of disappointing thing with this radio is that the volume control is bad, and that's not easily replaced because that's a double power switch because of the way it uses a positive and negative voltage here from the battery. That's not just a standard single power switch. Anyway, let's do our band scan here and see how it performs. We're looking for the old school station to really give it a good grade.
Well, where they can get off to that hot start and be a team that we were talking about in the middle of October. Wow, where did this start come from a team that was formed?
We're taking a breath. We're really starting to see what the real issues are within our community, especially when it comes to rebuilding. Speaking of rebuilding,
Muñoz. Ejemplo por la salud de Matías Coloriano López.
¿Cuál peligro en esa 내 결과가 됐어. Didn't parachute in.
De Jess.
Penal, cabezazo defensivo. En el suelo.
Hola, Tomsi Teresa.
이것도 할머니가 hiring. Are you hearing about people rebuilding, or what's in the way of them rebuilding? So the latest numbers that we have is that in Texas Health and Human Services submitted 138 have been. 이것도 보장 있는 것이 아니라고 합니다.
Tiene una petición.
Y pocas veces se enganchan, ¿no? Las jugadoras.
편에 계시고.
And when the final shortcut taken isn't exactly...
Tracks down child predators and he travels the country. Your inflation, offset costs.
This is just using the power of using the least money. We're fee-based money managers. We want to manage
For the entire NFC that a team like Arizona with a healthy Kyler Murray.
687-5192. U.S. Tax Shield. 800-687-51.
Inappropriate conversations with kids. This is Hands Tied, a true crime podcast.
Your team that really wants to kicking 2 out of 3. There's that accountability from within that clubhouse for Glass now to have that focus
That Dave Roberts talked about before the first game of this series. All right, Dave. Great stuff. We'll check back.
Scared. Try to...
espiritual de California.
Miguel González.
희망적인 for community it was going.
Salud. Señor. Lo ponemos en todos nuestros hijos y nietos. Ahí ponemos a todos nuestros hijos, a todos nuestros nietos, a todos nuestros...
There it is.
En sus ejercicios espirituales para que todos y de por la sanación de ella la conversión de sus hijos. Estados Unidos nos llama a una ella Martínez Suárez. Ella pide por la conversión y necesidad de todas sus
Okay, so it got it. It picked up the old school station, but it just does not have the selectivity. It seems pretty sensitive for what it is, and it's definitely working good. I think the transistors were a really good selection, but it's just, you know, you really need a 3 gang tuning capacitor with a tuned front end to get some of this really good DX stuff, but I think it's impressive. This is really a deal killer, though, that thing. I don't know how you replace that. Maybe just leave the switch in place and then disconnect the pot part of it and put another pot. Get like a little micro pot and drill a hole in the side of the radio and have another shaft coming out. Because, yeah, you need both sides of this switched. Anyway, that's been way too long of a video on an Emerson 880. Too bad transistors.